Today is the fifth Sunday of Lent, Passion Sunday, and the Gospel reading at Mass today is that wonderful story we hear in John chapter 11 of the raising of Lazarus. The words to that Gospel will be on your screens below this video on YouTube, or if you receive the parish email, then they'll be in the text of the email itself. If you want to find it in your own Bibles, and as I say, look to John chapter 11. We see in this gospel passage a Jesus who is both very human and very divine. We see a Jesus who mourns and who weeps for the loss and the death of his friend Lazarus. We also see a Jesus who by divine power raises that dead man Lazarus to life again. Jesus goes to Bethany, where he knows the home of Lazarus and Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha. That home which was for Jesus a place of warmth, friendship, intimacy and love. And we know in our own lives how important our sense of home is to us, those places where we know friendship, intimacy and love. But how it is in these current circumstances, in the last week and perhaps for several yet more weeks to come, how it is that our relationship to our home may have changed or may be changing. Rather than always being that place of intimacy, perhaps our homes begin to feel like somewhere where we're under something a little more like house arrest. Stay at home, we're told. Staying at home sometimes has the connotations of having a good old rest, but when it's forced on us, and when it's forced on us for a long time, for good, we might say, but nevertheless forced on us, perhaps we have a slightly different relationship to it, and perhaps even to those with whom we share our homes, those whom we love, tempers begin to get frayed and patience wears a little thin. And our homes, those places of love and comfort, can begin to feel perhaps less like a home and more like a tomb. We're brought back once again to Lazarus, now dead, sealed into a cold stone tomb and a stone rolled across its entrance. And perhaps we feel a bit sealed in, a bit locked up, a bit trapped where we are in our home, which has become something of a tomb to us. And there, in that story of Lazarus being laid to rest in the tomb, we hear, of course, the echoes of Jesus' own passion, death, and burial. He who is laid in a cold stone tomb with a stone rolled across the entrance, who is sealed in. And we see not only through Lazarus, therefore, but also through the life and passion of Jesus himself, that Jesus stands with us, that Jesus shares our experience. In these days, many people are suffering. Some, of course, are suffering very acutely with COVID-19 itself. Some are dead. Some are dying. Some are watching a loved one die, waiting anxiously for news. Some people are nervous. Some people are afraid. Some people are worried about their jobs and their livelihoods. Some people have already taken a very serious cut to their income. We're at a stage in this situation now where none of us is unaffected, even though we may not be suffering from COVID-19 ourselves. All of us feel its effects. Our life, indeed our national life, is already so disrupted by it. In that suffering that we may experience and that certainly others are experiencing, we know that Jesus is with us. when he meets Mary and her other friends who accompany her on his way, or rather on her way, to the place where Jesus is, where he first met Martha, he encounters Mary who weeps, and her friends are weeping with her. We're told by John the Evangelist that Jesus wept too. And how we know then that he is there with us in whatever we are feeling or suffering at this moment, and that he is there with those who are suffering even more. Some of you may have seen the reflection that I wrote yesterday, which went out by email and was published on the parish Facebook page, and how I talk about how the cross of Jesus is the ultimate place of solidarity with all those who suffer. And how I have encouraged you, and I encourage you again, to find a cross or a crucifix or an image of Jesus, and wherever you keep it usually, to bring it now into a place of prominence, where it can be a focus for you. Reminding you that Jesus is there with you, but reminding you also that Jesus is there with all those who are suffering in these days, and who may come to suffer in the days and weeks to come. And so as we are near the cross of Jesus, both physically as we bring them out and put them in our bedrooms or our sitting rooms or at our dining tables, so we are near him and he is near others. And so we, like him, can be near them too. Near them in prayer, in that prayer for God's mercy and help, and near them in hope. Jesus does not leave Lazarus in the tomb. No, of course, the great news of this story is that he raises Lazarus from death, and he says, "Lazarus, here, come out." And then he instructs the crowds to unbind him and set him free. And we have here a foretaste of that resurrection life that Jesus himself will give us through his own passion and resurrection. We know ourselves at the moment caught between that which we experience and we witness and that which we hope for, as is the context of today's gospel. Lazarus is raised, yes, but as yet, because Jesus has not been raised, the world does not know resurrection. As we come to Jesus earnestly in hope and in prayer for ourselves and for all those who suffer, we look forward to a brighter horizon, to an Easter horizon, to a resurrection horizon. We point ourselves to that place in hope, and we entrust to that place all those who suffer, hoping with them.